Johnny, you're up, brother. Back to the radio system. Yeah, man.
Unfortunately, we met with Virginia Kentucky Communications in our last meeting. What we did, what?
That's not my at the report.
Yeah, I think it just repeats in the crowd. But anyway, we met with Virginia Kentucky Communications in the last meeting that we had public safety, and I think it was the commission meeting that we were having. I was trying to remember which meeting, but actually during the meeting, those guys were involved in a very serious accident. Steve was killed in that accident. Cody was injured but survived the accident. His company's basically stepped back to just answering service calls at this point. So that basically eliminated our DMR solution with them. And I talked to Cody about that earlier today, and he agreed. He said right now he's just answering service calls for existing customers. We need this out there, Mike. You got these handed out already. Yeah. Basically, that puts us back to a situation where we have a tacking solution on the table and an analog replacement system on the table. I feel like tacking, as far as this committee, we kind of know what's included with those prices. The last PowerPoint that was printed off for everybody that went in extreme detail on what that price included, what that price did not include. We broke the sheet out today to break down what would be the city's responsibilities. That was in that. We didn't have that specifically listed in that last PowerPoint. That also affects a recurring cost. Put a note down here at the bottom that there's different ways that this can be addressed from a tacking standpoint of if we just went to put law enforcement and EMS on tacking and VHF being the other agencies, but that creates a pretty large interoperability issue with not very much cost savings. We have that broke down. Basically, the system come out still over $3 million with a reoccurring of over $50,000. Has anybody got any questions specifically on tacking?
The coverage, and how much coverage will we get with tacking? I mean, I know we looked at that map or that last time, but speaking from a percentage, I know they want DMR kind of gave a percent of how much, what to give away.
That last packet from the last meeting that we printed off for everybody, that's got a specific map on it. I've messed with that some since as far as moving sites, and that map is the best coverage we could provide with 4 sites. Personally, I don't feel like we'd be able to fulfill our goal with 4 sites. I think it would take more than that. But that was Tacking's recommendation, and that's what that price is for. We'd still have a significant issue with in-building coverage here in town without a 5th site added. I moved some sites around on the map to see if we could provide the coverage we needed with moving one site to Town Knob and then building a new site, and you're just unable to fulfill that need with 4 sites that way. The coverage map, there was a large percentage from Churchill to Rogersville that had no coverage with moving those sites to a different location. So what they've provided and the maps that were printed off from the last meeting is the best coverage you can do with 4 sites.
So no matter what, really though, no matter what we do, as we talked about last time, we need more tower either way.
Yeah.
No matter which way we slice or dice it, no matter who we go with, we need more tower.
At the end of the day, tacking will work. At the end of the day, tacking is the most expensive. At the end of the day, tacking would probably take 5-6 sites to cover this county. But as far as the technology, one talk group covering the whole county, one talk group for law enforcement, one for EMS, it's the only solution that provides that for everybody. It's also the most expensive, and you pay for that. In order to provide that with decent coverage, you're looking at a price well above what this quote is.
But this $4 million deal will only give us 15% more, right? Roughly.
The DMR, I think.
I don't think either one of them's any more than 15% more coverage.
Oh, yeah.
I'll go into that a little more about the analog and the DMR once we switch over to it too, and some issues that we found.
What you say you're at 4.5 million is less coverage than we have now.
It's what?
It's less coverage than we have now. You got to add at least 2 more sites, so you can come close to being equal.
And you don't own the equipment either, do you? So we've got 3 now.
Just a personal.
There's 4 on tacking.
I mean,
There's
what
4.
we have now.
Now we have 3, yes, yeah. Put that around on VHS.
So if we add 2 more based on this, it's gonna cost you 6.5 to 7 million.
Or more. For
Because you
equipment.
got to acquire property.
It's for, that's just been just for equipment.
Where's, where was their suggestions about putting more towers at? I don't have that map that you gave us last time.
The green sites that they provided on this map, one was 70 North Clinch Mountain area, and then the next was kind of the Amos Chapel, Carter's Valley area. Obviously, you just can't go with any real estate in that area. They would have to, if we, and this is with any system, when we find real estate that we'd be interested in, they'd have to run the exact coverage map with those coordinates and the height of the tower calculated into it to make sure it would work. And that's something that Tacken will tell you up front, as far as these maps, that real estate may not be available in those areas. They're just calculating solely off of geographical and topical maps.
Could we, and again, just because I don't know, instead of buying it, can we lease? Is that, if we're gonna put a tower on a site, do we have to own it? Could we lease it from somebody? Can we put a tower on somebody's property if we're leasing? Would that be cheaper? I mean,
We lease a site now, and then we own a site, and then the district owns a site that we use now. So all 3 of our sites are completely different on how we do that. We have one that's owned by the Homeland Security District. We have one that the county owns here at Town Hall, and then we lease the site on Short Mountain.
Well, put it on lease the property, but if you did, you'd want a longer lease.
Yes. Right now, ours is on a monthly lease, to my understanding. Is that your understanding, Jim?
Do we have any idea of what it would cost for the tower, utilities, and the generator for the site?
That would be so specific to the real estate, because you could have to have a different size tower for a different piece of real estate. That would be so dependent on your piece of real estate you bought, that would be pretty hard to calculate. Some sites are built completely on top of a mountain, where other sites are built down and a tower goes over the top of the mountain. So it would completely depend on where your real estate was on how big your tower would have to be and stuff. Whichever way we take this project, we're gonna have to continually work on the final figure and the final quote. And the reason being, what we need for tacking and what we would need for an analog / DMR solution that we were talking about in the past, our needs are completely different. We're still obviously needing the site to the north on both, but with tacking, we have another piece of real estate that we'd have to be trying to acquire there as well.
anybody have any questions on the topic? If anybody, any of y'all got questions, file them out. Raise your hand, whatever y'all part of it too.
From what I've heard since the first year, it's not a question, do we do something, it's a question, we've got to do something. And, from what the EMS fellow said today, if we don't do something to help them, and get this communication equipment going, we're just gonna be on outside looking in. I don't wanna have to pay more taxes. I don't wanna have to vote to raise taxes. But I didn't take this job to be politics and think about the next election. I may not be living the next election, so I'm here to say I support the EMS and the communication equipment and whatever we have to do, I'm gonna support that. And, it's time that somebody on this committee and, elsewhere, take leadership and just get something done.
We got the pros and cons here listed for tackling on this sheet. The other side, and we've not addressed this a whole lot in here, because we were leaning more toward a DMR solution with Virginia, Kentucky, which is not on the table anymore, but, this analog system would be similar to what we're running now. The pros and cons are listed down through there. If you want to look at those, we had Metro Communication come up and look at our towers. We run an antenna called a caulk rod, is what they placed here in 2014. The antenna is basically built together. The transmitter and the receiver's in the same antenna. From the beginning of doing this, the mayor felt like the transmitter was getting into the receiver just because of distancing. Metro was able to confirm in the last 2 weeks that is what's happening. The power of the transmitter is getting into the receiver, where that, basically from a bad design of the antenna, that's what's caused a lot of our issues on our VHF system for years. We're assuming just because it's so hard to get into that receiver. We've not got final figures back on this. Our vendor that we're working with just to get an initial quote is still working on some things as far as voting equipment that we would need. This system would be built on the 3 sites that we have now, with adding a 4th site to the north. That could be a full site or a partial site. The advantage of this, as far as the cost perspective, is that no end user devices would have to be purchased. It's the most inexpensive solution. This solution we were talking about with Tackman could take a couple of years to implement. This solution can be implemented pretty quickly as long as parts are available. COVID's interrupted the parts supply for every business. This system would still be on 3 individual sites. The user would have to pick which channel they're closest to, which repeater they're closest to, which has the best coverage. We're going to try, if we go with this solution, to tie part of these together, especially in law enforcement, where they would carry the same common audio. Disadvantage is also we can't get enough VHF frequencies to do that for everybody. Getting those antennas fixed should drastically improve how far out each site is able to be heard, but we can still have some complication at extreme distances. For example, like Mount Carmel to Mooresburg, County Line Road issue, or County Line Road area. We still may have some issues with those extreme distances. Cost would think be around $420,000 to replace what all we would need to replace. All that equipment is on sites. As far as repeater equipment we would have to replace. Not included in this would be the real estate, roadway, towers, utilities, and generators that would be needed for that north side.
You saying with this one, you only need 1 tower?
No, you would have to have it, we'd have to have at least 4. The 3 we have now, and then adding 1 additional to the north. The mayor may want to elaborate more on this plan, but we feel like we know a way that we can get it tied together to carry common audio across the county, especially for law enforcement. We just don't have enough frequency to do that for everybody.
I don't have anything really to add to it other than, some of the end users out here is not gonna like having to switch channels, but I don't think that's gonna happen very often. We're already in the process of improving the Bays Mountain, so, in the next few months, we should see a big difference up there. And with that coverage, the footprint of that site is gonna be bigger than what it is now, so that'll fill in some gaps down towards Rogersville. And then you got in town knob in the lower end, so usually, even if a deputy has to go from the upper end to the lower end, he's only got to switch channels one time. It's not like he's continuously switching.
What would be the time frame of getting this one up?
Months compared to years. Should be able to have it 2 to 3 months, I would imagine. I'm not printing that by the vendor to make sure, but from the time we go, before they said they could do that, we'd have to check with them to see how supply chains have been impacted by COVID.
Which vendor was it?
Veterans who we talked to before that said he couldn't provide a DMR solution, but he could provide an analog solution. And that's been his stance the whole time, but he couldn't provide a VHF.
Do we still have to get the license and all that stuff that we talked about?
Not with analog.
Have you talked to these people out here as far as, and I know they would like to tackle, but as far as the other one? Have you got anybody's input on that?
I've not, basically the solutions that I feel like we have now are attacking are basically what we have now with a replacement. I just feel like that's all we have on the table at this point, which I think all of them knew before that this VHF analog was on the table as well, but I've not had a conversation with each individual responder about it or each individual agency. I mean,
So what do you, is analog, do you guys like it? I mean, is it something that's gonna work for us? I mean, I'm not saying attacking won't, but versus attacking, is analog gonna be a good system if we use it? I mean,
It'll be better than what we got now, considerably. And this is not a patch like has been done over the years. This is a complete replacement of everything we've got, from antenna down to the repeater and build.
What kind of warranty we got with this? 3 years?
5 year on the repairs.
and it's that one at 420,000, right?
And that's a little high number, but
Well, higher voting, so it's always easier to save some money back. I
to be
mean,
honest with you, I told Jamie we need to make it high, I don't have to come back in and get back for more, so.
yeah. So which one you guys, what's next? What do you got better, Queen?
Yeah, there's two options on the table. There's tacking and this VHF replacement, basically. And me and the mayor's discussed this, at the end of the day, the tacking have to be done in this county, possibly. I'm not gonna say it won't, but this would drastically improve our coverage compared to what we have now. Hopefully tacking comes up with a solution to get smaller counties onto their network.
Plus, if you go attacking later on, 5, 10, 15 years from now, this system here will be your backup system, which we don't have now. So actually, everything we're buying, you're gonna be able to use later if you do switch over to tacking.
Parts of this system, at this time would have to be in place anyway for paging. There's not pagers in this county that's capable of receiving signals from tacking at this moment. They would just add another large cost for end user devices if all the pagers were replaced to something that works for P25. So this VHF analog system would have to be in place for years. Your two options for paging at that point would be P25 pagers, or if the county ever got to where we were nearly 100% cell phone coverage, which is what these other counties, that's why these other counties don't have that problem. the majority of their counties is covered by cell phone coverage, and they use an app-based paging.
Go ahead, Joe.
He hit on what I was
Oh.
gonna say. I was just gonna say that the other counties use app-based paging, but the other counties also have great cell phone service versus our county and the more rural parts of the county, Clinch Mountain, Beach Creek, where you have limited cell phone service, those app-based pagers won't work.
I have some friends that are in the Carter Valley Fire Department, also in Stanley Valley, but especially Carter Valley tell me that, you know, before November, when all the, you start having problems with the radios, they can use their radios and hear and talk just about anybody in Hawkins County until we have problems with our radios. But getting back to, what we were talking about here, how much was that, about 420,000? Is that, what, you're saying that we could replace everything we have in the three sections that we've got, the three tires?
That's everything.
No other tire, that's just what, the three that we've got right now, is that right?
That's not including the fourth.
So that's the devices for the fourth.
Okay.
But not
Not
tower,
not the tower.
not tower real estate generators.
What's the tower, without real estate, how much we looking at tower wise? Without buying real estate, we just, where it
How much
happened.
hockey buying high.
Didn't know where to go, probably 20,000-30,000.
Property car probably costs you more than that.
But this is the best equipment you can buy.
Then if you gotta put the tire up, you're gonna have to have the radio stuff.
That's in this price.
Okay.
So where are we with the grant process? So you've applied for which one?
We've applied for $250,000 of emergent money.
So not the basic CDBG?
No.
Even at the point when we were discussing that in January, he felt like we were so close to the deadline. No one else had applied for that money either. He felt like we were so close to that deadline, it would be hard to even get that in by the time it would be needed because of the surveys.
We assumed that side was gonna be used for the water project. So
So you don't have any idea when you're going to hear back?
I touched base with him the first of the week, and he said that he had not heard back yet, and he said that's always a good thing because, you know, it's still being reviewed, that it's not been declined yet.
So right now, basically, you just need, you don't even have to have it, you can do whatever you want to do, but I'm sure you're wanting to get an official vote from this committee.
I'd like to start today.
So the bottom line is this VHF analog system, you need a motion to move ahead with it, but we're not actually discussing financial arrangements at this time until we get feedback on the emergent grant and bottom line figures, right?
And we're asking your input on which system do you want to buy?
And it's bottom line is it's the VHF versus the TAC.
The VHF for 400,000 versus the TACN probably 9 million.
You've got more experience than anybody sitting up here regarding radios. You're leaning towards the VHF system.
And
I make a motion to move forward with the VHF analog system replacement.
I'll say that.
Got a motion on the floor, Commissioner Metz, to move forward with the analog system as replacement. Got a second by, Commissioner Collins. Move forward, any discussion?
I guess, one thing I'll have is, that 420,000 or whatever. That grant, if we have to get the grant, which would be good, but if not, would we use the money that we have left over? Have that million, so we got from the state to put toward that?
That would be up to you guys. That money could be used for anything.
Yeah. I was thinking that ice, in Nashville, it could be used for about anything now. Which
Because
first,
that-
why?
John may be
With no
able,
tax increase.
John may be able to answer this more, but that may impact implementation is the only thing about it, it's first timing.
Well, my concern is, and what I have raised in that commission meeting, and essentially begging to just wait a couple of weeks. Just this week, federal government through the EPA came out with a grant explicitly primarily for water lines and infrastructure, several $billions. You've also got the CDBG grant that can be applied for. I know it, from what I understand, it's been applied for twice. It failed, and that was primarily due to population that was included in that, which that was increased within the resolution. So that project actually has far more areas of possibility to be funded than what the radio system does, than what the EMS requirements are, than this AED project that would actually provide AEDs in all first responders, law enforcement, utility vehicles. So all your water departments, Holston Electric, Charter Cable, all of those vehicles will be equipped with AEDs that would quickly respond instead of just having to be solely dependent on EMS. And there are a lot of needs that we could quickly implement to impact the entire population of Hawkins County. And that funding from the governor, its intent was to positively impact the county as a whole. And that, I don't know that I properly articulated my concern last month, and that I just wanted to wait a couple of weeks for us to be able to get together and say, here's what our options are. Now, it's your district. If you're agreeable with that, then the full force, the state representatives, congressman, the mayor, county commission would be solely full-heartedly behind you 100% to do whatever that we've got to do to push to try and get that implemented. Because I know it's a difficult and daunting task for a small number of people to work like you guys have for that water line. And I respect that and I appreciate that. You put a lot of time into that, especially Mr. Rutledge. He put a significant amount of time in that and will continue to, and I respect that and appreciate that. But I just wanted to be able to pull all these needs together and us be able to come up with a comprehensive plan, all of us together, to try and fight for what we could actually get the biggest bang for our buck. And as of right now, we're past that point, so we're here's what we are. So short answer is yes, we can use that funding when it's released. I don't know when it's going to be released.
That was in my district, and, you know, I've fought for it for 25 years, I guess, but it used to be that it was 12 households per mile, but they upped that number, and it's more like, I don't know, like 40 now, I think, 30 or 40, and that's the reason it didn't, you know, wasn't getting grants for it, because they upped that number. And, but I got a water grant for mine, and, $310,000. That was about 20 years ago.
Hey, I hate to interrupt, but we probably need to get back to the motion at hand, in the discussion. I know Commissioner Kern had something to talk, and I was gonna ask right quick, you first responders, sheriff's department, rescue squad, firefighters, EMS, where do you guys stand on what we're getting ready to vote on? Do you have thoughts? I mean, you're gonna be going through, if you were up here in our shoes, would you be, with us, would you be voting with us or against us?
Awesome.
Go ahead, Cole.
As you guys know, we cover across the mountain right now over in the Itson area. We don't have any coverage. We have a repeater on Town Knob and also on Short Mountain. But once we cross over in the Itson, Clinch Valley area, we have zero coverage. We have to go to EMS, which only has 2 sites, Town Knob and Bays Mountain. So we're working off of that. We have to switch to the fire channel. We've implemented the app-based notification. Us and Mount Carmel have also implemented using a app-based to communicate over radios, but that works only where you have cell service. So whatever decision you guys make, we need something that's going to be long-lasting, that's going to work in the areas that we cover. I mean, if it only works in town, it's still no good. That's what we have now. But if we get outside of Rogersville, our reception off of Town Knob is horrible. Surprisingly, we have to switch to Short Mountain to be able to communicate in St. Clair, Whitesburg, Bulls Gap area to be able to talk. And we just need something that's going to work. I mean, for instance, yesterday we had to set up our command center on Highway 70, just maybe a quarter of a mile off 11W, just due to that area where we're in. You know, it's just a little pocket there. And we had a hard time communicating with one another and also dispatch. And I mean, that's you know, like I said, a quarter of a mile outside the city. You know, if we get over in Clinch near the school, Kepler or somewhere like that, you know, it's the further you go away from town, the more limited the coverage gets. And you know, like I said, we got the cell phone based apps, and they only work as good as when you have service. So, like I said, it doesn't really matter. We just need something that works and that's going to be reliable, and where we have coverage.
What we're talking about right now, you feel like this analog system that we're.
You know, Hawkins County's been on analog for beginning of time, I guess. And you know, the equipment that we have now, as far as the end users out in the field, most of it was either purchased by the individual responder or was got on Homeland Security funds back in early 2000s. So that stuff's been around for going on 15, 20 years now. It still works. It's what we're using today. And you know, the system works. We just, you know, the coverage area is going to have to be increased. And you know, by increasing the area, you're going to have to add towers. You know, 1, 2, whatever you have to do to get that coverage. But I'm not just talking about the rescue squad, but responders in general throughout the county need coverage area everywhere in the county. I know it's going to be hard to get 100%. No system is going to do that, but we can do better than what we're doing now.
Thanks, Cole.
You're welcome.
Mr. Chairman, my sentiments on that, and I totally agree with Commissioner Potts. I think we're at the point where this has become, it's been introduced to us as what if and what if. I think it's down to business. We need to react. If it costs whatever, it's going to cost. But I'm for let's move it forward, not backward. And at least we got something on the table now that we can work with, whether it be the EMS or whether it be here. But I think we need to move forward.
Anybody, go ahead, sir. Bo?
I just wanted to say, I've not worked in this county long, but I've been on radios for going on close to 22 years now. I've worked on a lot of different systems, TACM being the majority of what I worked on at the Highway Patrol. Yesterday's event involving the excavator, I know I had to make some tapes this morning involving that call, and there was 5 different agencies that requested the same thing over the radio. And that was because they didn't hear the other agency request the same thing. It's doubling the workload of the dispatchers, who are already swamped and having a hard time keeping up sometimes because they're having to ask the responders to repeat their traffic. constantly. It seems like it's every single radio call, can you repeat what you said? What did they say? Where are they at? You know, it only takes a split second for something to go wrong. I have 2 paperweights that I call them down at the office, 2 awards that I got from the Highway Patrol. Both of them for getting help to troopers that were in trouble. Each one of those transmissions was probably less than 2 or 3 seconds apiece. It was just enough time for them to key the radio and tell me they needed help. The radio system is going to have to be fixed regardless. We cannot keep putting a Band-Aid on this and expecting it to be all right. When something happens to somebody that in the field, for instance, Chief gets out there, God forbid, and something happened, he's got a second or 2 to say something to send him help. Not only is he affected, his family's affected, the department's affected, dispatchers are affected, this entire community is affected by what could happen to him if he can't get out on the radio. So all I'm asking is fix it, regardless of what needs to be done, what system you need to go with. Just get it fixed and stop putting the Band-Aid on. Thank you.
Any further discussion?
This is more or less a question to Jamie, I think. With this analog system, you're saying that the sheriff's department will be the only ones that can hear from, pretty much from one end of the county to the other?
The only frequencies that the county owns VHF that can be tied together is enough to cover law enforcement.
Okay, so my Moore unit won't be able to hear the Mount Carmel unit, is that the way I'm understanding?
Unless there was an agreement to get frequencies, or we just happen to be allocated enough frequencies to do that.
Okay. Because I see that as a major issue, especially at
That's
night,
a huge issue for your
because then
supervisors.
it's gonna put a bigger workload on 911.
It's a huge issue for your supervisors.
Call for question.
Motion's been called. Got a motion, got a second. All in favor to move along with the analog system replacement? Opposed? Motion carries. So I can see it. We good? Yeah, everybody happy? Anybody got anything else after we consent agenda? I need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Got a motion to adjourn, a second. Motion by Commissioner Mays, second by Commissioner